Hey everyone. I'll wait for just a sec before I get started. Some of you I saw a couple of days ago when I did a live reading on Friday night. I just kind of jumped in as a substitute because someone couldn't make it. But if you didn't see that, my name is Waylon. I am an author. I publish under W. Dale Jordan. The book that I read from on Friday was one of my self-published books. The book that I will be reading from today is called BACKROADS Blood Brothers. It is available now from Lethe Press. And I love this cover so much. I love the colors and everything. Also, about this particular book, just a little bit of a setup before I get into the reading. As most of my books do, it takes place in Texas. And this particular book is a thriller that surrounds a pair of male identical twins who are basically serial killers. They drive along the back roads of Texas and basically try to pick up men who they seduce and kill. It's a way, they say, of, connecting. So, anyway, another twisted tale from me, but one that I really hope you'll love, and I will drop links for that down in the box, in the comments after I'm done. This particular scene is about the 4th chapter in the book. The best friend of the man who was murdered at the very beginning of the book has gone out on the road trying to find his best friend's killers. There is he has a lot of questions about how it all came about. He has a lot of questions about who might have done it, but he has just the tiniest lead, and his best bet is just to drive the back roads until he finds them. So that's where I'll be picking up. That's not a spoiler, by the way. It's basically in the description of the book, and it's also on the 1st chapter of the book. So anyway, I will get into this, and I hope you all enjoy. I hope you have a really good time, and I hope if you like this, you'll give the rest of the book a try, because it's been really great getting to work with Lethe and get this out in front of people. So without further ado, let's get into BACKROADS Blood Brothers by W. Dale Jordan. Let's see. Scene is just pulling it up now. So this is again chapter 4 in BACKROADS Blood Brothers. Lane cursed at the ding from the truck's dashboard, signaling low fuel. He should have stopped in the last town, but he couldn't. He needed to keep moving. He was getting close. He could feel it. Fortunately, in this part of Texas, the towns were all about 15 to 20 miles apart. He willed the truck to keep going as he crossed the city limits into Clarendon. He frowned at the large cross next to the welcome sign, and again as he saw another and another along the main strip through town. What the hell? Everywhere he looked were church signs and Bible verses. They hung from storefronts and beckoned from street corners. He spotted a gas station and pulled in next to the pumps. He was out of the truck and removing the gas cap in a flash. He did not want to spend any more time in this town than he had to. It was creepy. The sign on the pump flashed after he swiped his card, and he pulled the trigger on the hose, flicking the tab down to lock it in place before making his way into the store. Cool air conditioning greeted him, and of course, church music played from unseen speakers. "Welcome, weary traveler," the man behind the counter said in greeting. He was all of 5'5" and probably clocked in at just under 300 pounds, with graying hair and a smile so wide it contorted his face. His sweat-stained polo shirt had seen better days, but a brightly colored button on his shirt announced, "This is the day the Lord has made." "Are you for real?" The question was out of his mouth before he could stop it, and he immediately held up a hand in apology. I'm sorry. Just been a long day." "That's quite all right, son. I know what it is to be tired. Restroom? In the back." The smile never faltered on the old man's face. Lane could swear it followed him around the corner and down a hall where 2 doors stood. One read Shepherd's, and the other was Lamb's. He shook his head at the signs, but decided he was a shepherd anyway. He pushed the door open and locked it behind him. He smiled when he saw the graffiti on the walls. At least something about this place was normal. Just above the urinal, someone named Robbie listed all the things he'd do for $20. Someone had tried to scribble over it, but they weren't very effective. If Robbie could do half the things he said, the man was going places. Beneath the advertisement, someone scrawled, "The rainbow belongs to God, not perverts," in red ink. Lane winced and shut his eyes, listening to the sound of his own pee hitting the porcelain surface of the urinal. Pervert. That's what the sheriff had called Mark when they got the DNA results back from the blood and other stuff on the scene. Mark had had a good time right up until the moment he died. They found DNA on the scene. The weird thing was that 2 of the sets were almost identical. The medical examiner had explained to them that meant the other 2 men were most likely twins. That was all Jace Winters needed to hear. He closed the case in 3 days, and when Lane had confronted him about it, the sheriff laid it all out for him. "The way I see it, your buddy was a goddamn pervert. He probably lured those boys out to his place and got rough with them. Maybe he was afraid they'd talk. Maybe he just didn't want anyone knowing what he got up to, including the people he got up to it with. He got rough with them, and they defended themselves." "That makes no goddamn sense, Jace." "It does if I say it does." The 2 men stared each other down for a long time, until Jace finally pushed his cowboy hat back on his head and grinned. "You 2 were friends for a long time, weren't you?" "You know we were. What the hell's that got to do with anything?" "I'm just surprised you didn't know what he got up to." "But maybe you did know. Maybe you like some of the same things." Lane felt the weight of the sheriff's words land on his shoulders. It was so heavy he took a step back. "Seems to me that if you don't want certain things getting around, you might just leave well enough alone. Go home, mourn your friend, and keep your fucking mouth shut." He was ashamed of himself that day. His friend had been killed, and he'd tucked tail and ran home at the implication anyone, would think he was a pervert too. And he sat in his double-wide drinking for 2 days. The more he drank, the angrier he got, until it finally boiled over. He broke every piece of glass in his house, put his fist through walls, and cursed so loud one of his neighbors came beating on the door. He convinced the man to go back home. He took a shower, packed a bag, and left home behind that night, determined to find the men who had killed Mark. By the following morning, he was just south of Dallas. He pulled into a diner for something to eat and called up Tommy, who ran Mark's favorite bar. He had to call 3 times before the man picked up the phone. "What?" "Tommy, it's Lane." "Lane who?" "Wake up, Tommy." "Fuck you." "Come on, man. I need to ask you a couple of questions about Mark Haskell." "I don't know nothing," the man grunted. "Bullshit. Look, you don't have to point any fingers. I just need you to answer one question." There was a long pause on the other side of the connection. Lane would have thought the call had been dropped if he couldn't hear Tommy's labored breathing. "You got one," he said finally. "All I want to know is if you saw a set of twins talking to Mark at the bar that night." "What?" "Twins, Tommy. A set of twins. Guys." "Oh, those two. Tommy Dwayne, you listen. I need to know whatever you can tell me." "Well, there were two of them," he said stupidly. "No shit." "They were taller. About 6 feet. Black hair. Green eyes. They had a few beers with Mark, except I never actually saw either one of them drink." "Tommy, did they leave the bar together?" "No." "Fuck," Lane whispered. "I mean, they left at the same time, but not really together, you know?" Lane sat up in the booth and leaned over the sticky table. "Okay, did you get their names?" "That's 2 questions," Tommy said. "Tommy, did you get their names?" "I heard them talking, but I don't remember, okay?" Lane ran his hand through his hair, then held up a finger to the waitress to indicate he needed another minute. He counted to 10. "Thanks, Tommy." "I'm sorry, man. Did they? I don't know. But I'm gonna find out." He'd been on the road ever since, driving from town to town. He knew the likelihood of finding his friend's killers was small, but he had to try. Someone had to try. He'd gotten close a couple of times, so he thought anyway, but he was getting close now. He could feel it. Things were falling into place. He finished up and washed his hands before stepping back into the store proper. He grabbed sodas and snacks and took them to the counter where the smiling man scanned and bagged things up for him. "You don't mind me saying so," the man said. "You look lost." Lane sighed. "Not lost, just I'm working on it." The man nodded and held out his hand. "Ralph," he said. He shook the offered hand. "Lane." "Glad to meet you, Lane. Listen, I'm not going to preach at you. I'm just going to slip a couple of these tracks into your bag. You do with them what you want. Also, here's a card for my brother's motel. If you need a place to rest, the door's always open. My nephew Ryan helps him run the place. You just tell him I sent you. They'll give you a discount." Lane smiled and dropped the card into his pocket. "Thanks." "You're welcome. You have a blessed day now. Thanks again," he said, picking up his bags and stepping back out into the heat. He checked his watch. It was getting late. He pulled the card out of his pocket as he settled in behind the wheel, then punched the address into his phone. He was only 10 miles out of the way, and he could use a shower and a real bed. He tapped begin route on the screen and pulled out into the street. So, that's what I have for you today. I do want to point out a couple of things about the book and this scene in particular. First of all, Clarendon is an actual town in West Texas, and it is exactly the way I wrote it. All of the Bible verses, all the crosses, there's literally nowhere you can look that there's not a cross in this place. The first time that my husband and I drove through it, I actually told him, if there's corn here, there's got to be children in it. So, I mean, that's just kind of the type of place that it is. And one of the things that I like doing is sort of using real places mixed in with the made-up places. I like to give it a sense of place within the state of Texas so that people can look on the map and see kind of where I'm talking about and the kind of places that I'm writing about. Again, this was BACKROADS Blood Brothers. You can get a look at the cover here. I will drop a link for this to Amazon and to the Lethe Press site, where you can buy it directly from the site if you'd like to. And I hope you all enjoyed this today. I hope you had a really great time, and hopefully we can talk about the book more soon. Thank you, and y'all have a really great day.